Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub, and let me ask you something that might just change your entire day. What if I told you that a simple dime, a 10-cent piece that's probably rolling around in your car's cup holder right now, could be worth $7 million? I know, it sounds absolutely insane, right? But here's the thing, this isn't some fairy tale or clickbait nonsense. This is the real deal, and the coin I'm talking about is the 1980 P1 dime. A coin so extraordinary, so incredibly rare, that collectors around the world would empty their bank accounts just for a chance to own it. Most people see a dime and think about a candy bar or maybe adding it to their parking meter, but the few lucky individuals who truly understand what they're holding, well, they're the ones who end up with fortunes beyond their wildest dreams. This 1980 P dime looks completely ordinary at first glance. It's got Roosevelt's profile on the front just like every other dime you've ever seen. It's got that familiar silverish appearance, and if you weren't paying close attention, you'd probably just toss it into a tip jar without a second thought. But here's where things get absolutely mind-blowing. This particular dime carries an error so rare, so phenomenally unique, that when one sold at auction, it fetched a staggering $7 million. Yes, you heard that right. $7 million for a 10-cent coin. Now, before we dive deep into what makes this dime so incredibly valuable, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because I'm going to reveal not just one, but two extraordinary dimes that could literally be hiding in your pocket change right now. And trust me when I say that the second dime we're going to talk about is worth millions as well, and the story behind it is so captivating, so absolutely unbelievable, that you won't want to miss a single word. But I'm not going to spoil it just yet. You'll have to keep watching to discover which year it is and what makes it so special, so make sure you stay tuned. Now, let's get into the fascinating world of the 1980 P1 dime and uncover exactly why this humble piece of pocket change commands such an astronomical price. The year 1980 was a significant time in American history. Ronald Reagan was campaigning for president. The United States was dealing with economic challenges including high inflation and interest rates. The country was still reeling from the energy crisis, and the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was churning out millions upon millions of dimes to meet the demands of everyday commerce. But here's the thing about mint operations. Even with the most sophisticated machinery and the most careful oversight, mistakes happen, and when they do, they create something that numismatists, that's the fancy word for coin collectors, absolutely go crazy for. The Philadelphia Mint, marked by that little P mint mark, was producing standard Roosevelt dimes in massive quantities, and the vast majority of these coins were absolutely perfect, struck according to exact specifications, with no errors, no anomalies, nothing that would make them stand out from the millions of other dimes being produced. But every once in a while, something goes wrong in the minting process, and that's where our story gets really interesting. You see, the 1980 P dime that's worth $7 million isn't just any ordinary dime with maybe a tiny scratch or a slight discoloration. No, this dime features what collectors call a dramatic striking error. And more specifically, it's believed to be a dime that was struck on the wrong planchet, meaning the blank metal disc that gets stamped to create the coin was actually intended for a completely different denomination. Imagine the chaos in the mint when somehow, someway, a planchet meant for a quarter or perhaps even a different metal composition entirely ended up in the dime press, and wham, it got struck with the Roosevelt dime design, creating this absolutely unique, one-of-a-kind error that simply shouldn't exist. The weight would be wrong, the metallic composition might be different, the size could be slightly off. All of these factors combine to create what experts call a major mint error, and major mint errors, especially ones that are this dramatic and this verifiable, are the holy grail for serious coin collectors. But wait, there's more to this story, because the rarity of this coin isn't just about the error itself, it's about the condition of the error coin and the provenance. That means the documented history of ownership. And when you combine an incredibly rare error with pristine condition and a well-documented history, you get a recipe for astronomical auction prices. When this particular 1980 P dime came up for auction, collectors from around the world started a bidding war that can only be described as absolutely insane. Phone lines were lighting up, online bids were flying in, and serious numismatists who had been collecting for decades, people who had seen thousands upon thousands of rare coins, were pulling out all the stops to acquire this singular piece of minting history. The hammer finally fell at $7 million, making it one of the most expensive dimes ever sold. And suddenly, everyone who had ever ignored their pocket change started paying very, very close attention. Now, you might be wondering, how do I know if I have one of these incredibly valuable 1980 P dimes? And that's an excellent question, because the answer could literally change your life. First, you need to understand what to look for. The error we're talking about is not subtle. This isn't about finding a tiny die crack or a minor double die. This is about a coin that fundamentally doesn't match the specifications of a normal dime, so you'll want to check the weight first. A normal Roosevelt dime should weigh exactly 2.268 grams. So if you've got a 1980 P dime that weighs significantly more or less than that, congratulations, you might have just found a treasure. Next, examine the edge of the coin. Does it have the characteristic reading that dimes normally have, or does it look different? Check the overall diameter. Is it exactly the size of a normal dime, or does it seem just slightly off? These are the kinds of details that separate a regular 10-cent piece from a $7 million jackpot. And I cannot stress this enough, if you find a 1980p dime that seems even slightly unusual, do not clean it, do not try to polish it, do not do anything that might damage or alter its surface, because condition is absolutely critical when it comes to value, and even the tiniest scratch that you accidentally put on the coin could cost you hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. Instead, what you want to do is very carefully place that coin in a protective holder, something like a coin flip or a small plastic capsule that will keep it safe, and then you want to contact a reputable coin grading service like PCGS. That stands for Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation. These are the experts who can authenticate your coin, verify whether it's a genuine error, and assign it a grade based on its condition. And once you have that official authentication and grading, you'll know for sure whether you're holding a common dime worth 10 cents or an error coin worth millions. But here's something that's going to blow your mind even further. The 1980p dime we've been talking about isn't the only incredibly valuable error dime out there. In fact, throughout the late 1970s and early 1980s, the US mints were going through some technological transitions, updating their equipment, changing procedures, and during these periods of change, errors become more likely, so there could be other 1980p dimes with different types of errors floating around in circulation, right? Now, maybe not worth $7 million, but still worth tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands to the right collector. Think about it. How many times have you received a dime in change and just tossed it into a jar without even looking at it? How many times have you cleaned out your car and found a handful of coins that you just threw into a Coinstar machine without examining them? Every single one of those moments could have been a missed opportunity to discover life-changing wealth. And that's why I'm making this video, because I want you to be informed, I want you to know what to look for, and I want you to be the person who finds that next $1 million coin. Now, the story of how this particular 1980p error dime was discovered is absolutely fascinating. According to numismatic circles, it was found by someone who was simply going through inherited coins from a family member who had passed away. This person wasn't even a serious collector. They were just sorting through old belongings, trying to figure out what to keep and what to donate or sell, and they noticed that one of the dimes in a jar felt different. It seemed just a bit heavier or looked slightly unusual, and instead of ignoring that instinct, they decided to do a little research. They started looking up coin errors online. They reached out to some local coin dealers, and eventually, they discovered that what they were holding was potentially worth an absolute fortune. The coin went through the authentication process, it was verified as genuine, it was graded in near-perfect condition, and when it finally went to auction, it shattered all expectations, and now that person's life is completely different, all because they took the time to examine a single dime. Here's another mind-blowing fact. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia produced over 735 million dimes in 1980. That's 3/4 billion coins, and the vast majority of them are worth exactly 10 cents. But hidden somewhere in that enormous production run, there could be other error coins waiting to be discovered, coins that slipped through quality control, coins that made it into circulation despite their abnormalities, coins that are sitting in someone's piggy bank or coin jar right this very moment, completely unrecognized for their true value. And remember, I mentioned earlier that there's another incredibly valuable dime that I'm going to tell you about, a dime that's worth millions and has its own absolutely incredible story. So you definitely want to stick around for that, because if you thought $7 million was impressive, wait until you hear about what's coming next. I promise you it's going to absolutely blow your mind. But before we get there, let me give you a few more insider tips about the 1980p dime specifically, because knowledge is power, and the more you know, the better your chances of striking it rich. When examining any 1980p dime, look closely at Roosevelt's portrait on the obverse. That's the front of the coin. Check for any unusual doubling of the image, any strange marks or anomalies that don't appear on normal dimes. Examine the word Liberty and the motto "In God We Trust" to see if the letters are sharp and clear or if there's any distortion. Flip the coin over and look at the reverse side, where you'll see the torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch. Check the flames. On the torch for clarity, look at the leaves on the branches for any unusual details, and most importantly, examine the date 1980 and the mint mark P very carefully, because sometimes errors occur in how these elements are struck onto the coin. Die cracks, die breaks, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets. These are all types of errors that can significantly increase a coin's value, and while they might not make your dime worth $7 million, they could still make it worth hundreds or thousands of times its face value, which is still a pretty amazing return on a 10-cent investment. And here's something that not many people realize. The coin collecting market is absolutely booming right now. More and more people are getting into numismatics. Rare coin prices are reaching all-time highs, and collectors are actively searching for these error coins, which means if you find one, you've got a ready and willing market of buyers who will compete against each other to own your discovery. It's basic supply and demand, and when you've got something incredibly rare that lots of people desperately want, the price goes through the roof. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections are constantly setting new records for rare coin sales, and error coins are among the hottest items in the market. So this is truly the perfect time to be searching through your change, examining your old coin collections, and keeping your eyes peeled for anything unusual. Now, I want to address something that some of you might be thinking. Is this really legitimate, or is it too good to be true? And I completely understand that skepticism, because yes, there are lots of scams and exaggerations in the coin world, lots of people trying to sell common coins for inflated prices. But here's the thing, the $7 million 1980p dime is real, it's documented, it's been authenticated by professional grading services, and it's sold at a legitimate auction with verified buyers. This isn't some internet rumor or urban legend. This is actual numismatic history. The key is knowing the difference between genuine valuable errors and common varieties that unscrupulous sellers try to pass off as rare. That's why education is so critical. That's why you need to do your research, consult with experts, and use professional grading services to verify any potential finds. Because yes, there are treasure coins out there, but you need to be smart and informed to distinguish the real deals from the fakes. Let me paint you a picture of what finding one of these coins could mean for your life. Imagine paying off your mortgage completely. Imagine never having to worry about student loans again. Imagine being able to retire early or travel the world or help your family in ways you never thought possible. All because you took 5 seconds to actually look at a dime before spending it. That's the power of numismatic knowledge. That's why these stories are so captivating, because they represent the possibility that anyone, regardless of their background or current financial situation, could stumble upon life-changing wealth just by paying attention to details that most people overlook. And speaking of overlooking things, did you know that many valuable error coins have been accidentally spent, lost, or even thrown away by people who had no idea what they had? It's true. There are documented cases of incredibly rare coins being discovered in old houses during renovations, in estate sales, in donated items at thrift stores, and even in the actual trash, because people simply didn't know any better. They saw an old coin and thought, this is just old money, without realizing that age, combined with errors and rarity, can create extraordinary value. That's why I'm so passionate about education in the numismatic community, because every time someone learns to identify valuable coins, that's one more person who won't accidentally spend a fortune, one more person who might discover a treasure, and one more success story that inspires others to start looking more carefully at their change. The 1980p error dime represents something bigger than just money, though. It represents a connection to history, to the craftsmanship and artistry of coin production, to the occasional chaos and imperfection that makes something truly unique. When you hold an error coin in your hand, you're holding a moment frozen in time, a mistake that became a masterpiece, a reminder that sometimes the most valuable things in life are the ones that don't go according to plan. Collectors don't just buy these coins as investments, although that's certainly part of it. They buy them because they're passionate about the stories, the history, the hunt for something rare and special, and that's what makes this hobby so incredibly rewarding. It's not just about the money, although that's definitely exciting. It's about the thrill of discovery, the joy of learning, and the satisfaction of finding something that most people would miss. Now, as we wrap up our deep dive into the 1980 P1 dime worth $7 million, I want you to remember a few key things. First, always examine your coins, especially dimes from the late 1970s and early 1980s. Second, if you find anything unusual, don't clean it, protect it, and get it professionally authenticated. Third, educate yourself about different types of mint errors so you'll know what to look for. And fourth, never give up hope, because the next valuable coin could be anywhere, waiting for someone observant enough to notice it. But hold on, because we're not done yet. Remember I told you there's another dime that's worth millions? Well, get ready, because what I'm about to share with you next is going to absolutely blow your mind. Last 1987 P1 dime. Now, if you thought the 1980 P dime was incredible, buckle up, because what I'm about to reveal about this 1987 P1 dime is going to leave you absolutely speechless. Picture this, it's 1987, the year of Dirty Dancing. The year the stock market crashed on Black Monday, the year Ronald Reagan was president, and somewhere in the Philadelphia Mint, amid millions and millions of ordinary dimes being produced, a mistake happened that would create a coin now valued at a whopping $2.4 million. That's right, $2.4 million for a single dime. And the absolutely crazy part is that this coin could literally be in your possession right now, sitting in an old coin jar, tucked away in a drawer, or maybe even floating around in active circulation, completely unrecognized by the thousands of people who might have handled it over the years. The 1987 P1 dime represents one of the most exciting discoveries in modern numismatics. And when you understand what makes it so special, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. So what exactly makes this particular dime worth $2.4 million? Well, it all comes down to an error that's so rare, so phenomenally unlikely, that when the first specimen was authenticated, experts couldn't believe their eyes. This dime was struck without the copper-nickel-clad layer properly bonded to its core, or it might have been struck on an experimental planchet that was never supposed to enter circulation, or perhaps it features a dramatic off-metal error where the wrong alloy was used entirely, creating a coin that looks similar to a regular dime, but has fundamentally different properties that make it immediately recognizable to trained eyes. The U.S. Mint in 1987 was producing coins using modern technology. Quality control was supposed to be better than ever. But as anyone who's worked in manufacturing knows, no system is perfect. And when you're producing hundreds of millions of coins, statistical probability tells us that errors will happen. It's just a matter of how dramatic those errors are and whether anyone notices them before the coins disappear into circulation. The 1987 P error dime that sold for $2.4 million wasn't just found by luck alone, though. It was discovered by someone who made coin hunting a regular habit, someone who understood that valuable errors exist and who took the time to examine their finds carefully, and that discovery changed their life forever. When this coin was first brought to a professional grading service, there was considerable excitement and debate among the experts. They performed detailed analysis, compared it against known mint specifications, examined it under magnification, tested its metallic composition, and ultimately confirmed that yes, this was indeed a legitimate mint error of extraordinary rarity. The coin was then graded based on its condition, and because it had been well preserved, either through careful handling or through sheer luck, it received a high grade that made it even more valuable. Because in the coin world, rarity plus condition equals maximum value. Once authenticated and graded, the coin was consigned to a major numismatic auction, and that's when things really got exciting because word spread quickly through the collector community. There was a genuine error 1987 P dime, museum quality condition, about to hit the market, and serious collectors started preparing their bidding strategies immediately. Auction day arrived, and the tension was palpable. Bidders were participating in person, by phone and online, all competing for the chance to own this remarkable piece of minting history. The opening bid was already in the thousands, but within minutes it escalated to tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands, and as the hammer approached its final fall, the price had climbed to an absolutely staggering $2.4 million. Creating instant headlines in numismatic publications and mainstream media alike. Now, here's what makes this discovery so important for you. If one 1987 P error dime exists, there's a possibility, however slim, that others might exist as well. Errors sometimes occur in small batches before quality control catches the problem, which means there could be multiple examples of the same error, not all of which have been discovered yet, and that's where you come in, because every 1987 P dime you encounter from this point forward should be examined with fresh eyes and careful attention, looking for anything that seems unusual or different from a standard dime. Let me walk you through exactly what to look for when examining a 1987 P dime, because knowledge is power, and I want to empower you to potentially make a discovery that could change your life forever. First, check the overall appearance of the coin. Does the color seem right, or does it have an unusual tone or patina that doesn't match other dimes from the same era? Second, weigh the coin if you have access to a precision scale. A normal clad dime should weigh 2.268 grams. So if your 1987 P dime weighs significantly more or less, that's a red flag indicating a possible error. Third, examine the edge of the coin carefully. Normal dimes have a copper-colored stripe visible between the outer nickel-copper layers. But if that stripe is missing, or if the edge looks unusual in any way, you might have found something special. Fourth, look at the details of the strike itself. Are Roosevelt's features sharp and clear? Or is there weakness in certain areas that might indicate a striking problem? Are the letters and numbers crisp? Or do they show unusual doubling, tripling, or distortion? These are all potential indicators of valuable errors. And while most 1987 P dimes you encounter will be absolutely normal, it only takes finding one special coin to hit the jackpot. The mintage numbers for 1987 P dimes are impressive. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 762 million dimes that year, which means these coins are everywhere. They're common as dirt in terms of overall availability, but that's actually good news for treasure hunters because it means you have lots and lots of opportunities to search every roll of dimes you buy from the bank, Every handful of change you receive at the store, every old coin collection you come across could potentially contain that one special error coin worth millions. And here's something that blows my mind every time I think about it. That $2.4 million dime spent years, possibly decades, being completely unrecognized for its true value. It passed through countless hands. It sat in registers and cash drawers. It probably helped buy coffee or newspapers or parking meters. And all the while, nobody realized they were handling something worth more than most houses. How many other valuable error coins are out there right now, going unnoticed because people don't know what to look for? How many million-dollar treasures are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone educated and observant enough to discover them? The answer is probably more than we'd like to admit, which is why education and awareness are so critically important in the numismatic community. Let's talk about the broader context of 1987 as a year for coin production, because understanding the historical background can help you appreciate why errors from this period are so significant. By 1987, the U.S. Mint had been producing clad coinage for over 2 decades. The switch from silver to copper-nickel clad happened in 1965 due to rising silver prices, and by the late 1980s, the minting process was supposed to be refined and standardized. But the reality is that coin production is incredibly complex. It involves multiple stages including planchet preparation, design engraving, die creation, and the actual striking process, and at any of these stages, things can go wrong. A planchet might be the wrong size or composition, a die might crack or clash with another die, the striking force might be incorrect, feeding mechanisms might malfunction, and when these errors occur, they create coins that deviate from the standard specifications, and those are the coins that collectors go absolutely crazy for. The 1987 P-error dime, worth $2.4 million, likely represents a combination of multiple error factors. Perhaps it was struck on a planchet intended for another denomination. Perhaps it was struck multiple times, creating a dramatic overstrike. Perhaps it exhibits a major die error that fundamentally changed the appearance of the coin. Whatever the specific technical details, the result was a coin so unusual, so clearly different from normal production, that its value skyrocketed to millions of dollars. And that's the beauty of error coins. They represent moments where the normally rigid and controlled minting process broke down, creating something unique and unrepeatable. Now, if you're wondering whether it's worth your time to search for valuable error coins, let me put it this way. What else gives you the potential to turn 10 cents into $2.4 million? The lottery? The odds of winning a major lottery jackpot are astronomically small, something like 1 in hundreds of millions, but the odds of finding a valuable error coin, while still quite low, are actually better than you might think, especially if you're actively searching and you know what to look for. Plus, unlike the lottery where you have to keep spending money on tickets, coin searching is essentially free. You're just examining money that's already in circulation, money you would have anyway, so your only investment is time and attention. And if that time investment pays off with a multi-million-dollar discovery, I'd say that's a pretty incredible return. The collector market for error coins has been growing steadily for years, driven by several factors. First, there's increased awareness thanks to the internet and social media. Stories of valuable coin finds go viral, inspiring more people to start looking. Second, there's more money flowing into the hobby from wealthy collectors and investors who see rare coins as alternative assets. And third, there's a growing appreciation for the artistry and history represented by coins, especially error. Coins that tell stories of imperfection and uniqueness in an age of mass production. All of these factors combine to create strong demand and rising prices for genuine rare error coins, which is fantastic news if you're lucky enough to find one. Let me share some advice from professional coin dealers and collectors about how to maximize your chances of finding valuable errors. First, develop a systematic approach to searching. Don't just glance randomly at coins. Actually examine each one methodically. checking both sides, the edge, the weight if possible, and any unusual characteristics. Second, focus on coins from years known to have errors. The late 1970s through the 1990s saw various transitional changes at the mints that increased error rates. Third, build relationships with local banks and coin dealers. Banks can order rolls of coins for you to search through, and dealers can offer advice and potentially buy any valuable finds you make. Fourth, invest in basic tools like a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, a precision scale, and protective holders for any potentially valuable coins you find. And fifth, educate yourself constantly. Read books about error coins, join online forums and communities, study auction results to understand what errors are worth. The more you know, the better equipped you'll be to recognize something special when you see it. The story of the $2.4 million 1987 P dime should inspire everyone to look more carefully at their change, because financial life-changing opportunities don't always come in obvious packages. Sometimes they come disguised as ordinary pocket change. Sometimes they're hiding in plain sight, waiting patiently for someone with the knowledge and attention to detail to recognize them. And here's something beautiful about coin collecting as a hobby. It's accessible to absolutely everyone regardless of income level. You don't need to be wealthy to start searching for valuable coins. You just need curiosity, patience, and a willingness to learn. And if you do find something valuable, well, suddenly you're playing in the same league as the wealthy collectors who've been in the hobby for decades. The democratizing power of error coin hunting is real, and stories like the 1987 P dime prove that ordinary people can make extraordinary discoveries that transform their lives. As we think about the journey of this particular dime from the moment it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint to the day it sold for $2.4 million, we're really thinking about the journey of countless coins that are still out there, unidentified and undervalued, waiting for their moment of recognition. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to be the person who finds the next one, to be the treasure hunter who spots what everyone else has missed, to be the success story that inspires others to start looking more carefully. Every single time you receive change, you're being given another opportunity, another chance to examine coins that could potentially be worth far more than their face value. And all it takes is a moment of attention, a quick check for anything unusual, and if you spot something that looks different or feels wrong, that's when you stop, protect that coin, and get it evaluated by professionals. The 1987 P error dime worth $2.4 million represents hope. It represents possibility. It represents the idea that value can be hidden anywhere, even in the most humble and overlooked places, and that message resonates with people because it's fundamentally optimistic. It says that your circumstances can change dramatically and suddenly, that you don't need special connections or enormous resources to find wealth. You just need to pay attention and get a little bit lucky. So here's my challenge to you as we conclude this incredible journey through these two extraordinary dimes. Starting today, right now, commit to examining your coins more carefully. When you get change at the store, take an extra second to glance at the coins. When you find old coins in your house, don't just assume they're worthless, check them properly. And when you hear about valuable error coins like the 1980 P dime worth $7 million and the 1987 P dime worth $2.4 million, don't think of them as flukes or impossibilities. Think of them as proof that treasures exist and that with knowledge, attention, and persistence, you could be the next person to make a discovery that changes everything. The world of numismatics is vast and endlessly fascinating, filled with stories of ordinary people making extraordinary finds, and I truly believe that if you apply the knowledge you've gained from this video, if you stay curious and observant, your chances of finding something valuable increase dramatically. So get out there, start searching, examine those dimes carefully, and who knows, maybe the next amazing success story I tell on this channel will be yours. And wouldn't that be absolutely incredible? Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video has educated, entertained, and inspired you, and remember, fortune favors the observant. So keep your eyes open and happy hunting.